So, yeah, I'll start by saying thanks to those of you who've kept at it and kept chugging through and supported it. I do get the sense that for a lot of us, it'll be useful to consolidate what we've learned over the last month or so. And then my intention is to go into the next sprint, which will be all about like how do we use all this stuff to help us get customers. There's so many cool ways you can use AI for that now. But we might just take a week or two just to sort of consolidate and help those that feel like they just need a bit of support on the fundamentals. So it's a show and tell session. There's really not a lot of pressure. I've got it live streamed on LinkedIn. So
what about Twitch? Is it streaming on Twitch?
Yeah. No, we are recording it, but mostly just to make a little highlights video and to be able to share with those that couldn't make it today. Yeah, so the format is basically whoever would like to volunteer to come up. We've got USB and HDMI there. Take as long as you need. I think we've got, we're sort of booked in for nearly 2 hours. And then we're going to have a barbie afterwards and we'll hand out the swag to everyone who deserves some new swag. Yeah, without further ado, who'd like to kick us off?
This is something that is, I guess, more of a toy than anything. Kind of fun to do. I've been messing around. Look, let's wind back a few steps. So I've spent the last kind of 5 and a bit years doing customer service, customer support at Zen. So leading teams, building things out, customer support and incredible experiences are one of the things that really get me going. It's a brand experience, as far as I'm concerned, not a kind of a cost center that can be seen. So what I'm showing here is an experience of a voice AI helping people with bookings. So I took Basque as an example. So Basque is a restaurant over here in the village, and I figured it would be fun to build an agent that could take an order, talk about what's on the menu, and to, I guess, do all of the bits and pieces. So I've done some integrations, and one of them is with Airtable. So in lieu of whatever system they've got, I've just kind of plugged in Airtable to fit the gap there. And we've got the tabs at the top there. So we've got tables, table availability and reservations. So for Basque, they've only got 5 tables. We could stick as many in there as we want. We can see that we've got the different seats, availability and reservations there, but I'll just flick across into here. So this is the schedule or the book. And so this is where everything gets plugged in. And the last tab here is just the record around reservations. So we can see that I've been busy in there. Any questions before we go further? Cool. So I'm going to flick across. So from a system point of view, what I've done is my front end. Now, I like to kind of think about these things in a couple of different ways. Instead of a web front end, I'm using a voice front end, and that does all of the really neat stuff around the communication. This also does chat. And so, you kind of get a 2-for-1, which is nice. So we've got both chat, we've got both voice. This plugs in, and what I'll show is how I've stitched it all together. Now, I've been cheeky, and I could have done it in Cursor. I could have built something out which is robust, but what I've done is I've done it in N8N just to show more than anything how this kind of thing works. I can talk through Emily, but it's probably worth just doing the demo, and we'll go through how she works. Or how
I do think come back to it, Rich, and show us that.
I'll do the under the hood.
Yeah.
This is Emily from Basque. How can I assist you today?
Hey Emily, can you tell me what are the specials today, please?
Absolutely. We have some delightful specials today that you're sure to love. Our chef is featuring a creamy saffron risotto topped with grilled scallops. And we also have a zesty lemon herb chicken with roasted seasonal vegetables. For something lighter, our classic caprese salad with fresh mozzarella and heirloom tomatoes is a must-try. If you have any dietary preferences, feel free to let me know, and I can suggest more options. Would you like to make a reservation?
No, can you tell me what you've got for desserts?
Of course. Our dessert menu has some real treats. You can enjoy a rich tiramisu that's both creamy and coffee flavoured, or perhaps our decadent chocolate lava cake that oozes warm chocolate goodness. If you're in the mood for something fruity, we have a classic panna cotta with mixed berry sauce.
Hey, Emily.
And of course, It looks like there was a little mix-up. My name is Emily. How can I assist you today?
Could I make a booking for Tuesday at 11 o'clock for 3 people, please?
I'd be happy to help with your reservation. May I have your name, please?
Certainly, my name is Rich.
Thanks, Rich. Now let me check the availability for 3 people on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Just a moment. Let me know if there's anything you need.
The booking, please.
Just a sec.
I think
Great news, Rich.
Yes?
Great news, Rich. We do have availability for 3 people at 11 a.m. on Tuesday. Could I get your email to finalise the booking?
Sure. My email is richlow@gmail.com.
Thanks, Rich. I'll note down your email as richlow@gmail.com. Do you have any special requests or dietary restrictions that I should mention?
I'm gluten-free pescatarian.
Got it. I'll make sure our chef is aware of your gluten-free pescatarian diet. Let me finalise your reservation for 3 people at 11 a.m. on Tuesday. One moment, please. This'll just take a sec. Your reservation is all set, Rich. You're booked for 3 people at 11 a.m. on Tuesday. If you have any other questions or need anything else, just let me know.
Thanks, Emily.
You're welcome, Rich. If you have any more questions or need assistance in the future, feel free.
Right, she's going to go on and wind the call up. But what I'm going to show now is...
Very good, Rich.
There was that split second of, is this actually going to work as it hung? And we can get into some of that latency as well around how it hangs together. In fact, you can see it's interesting here. What you've got is that line there around the latency in the call. So I'll just I'll mouse over that and you can see all of the bits and pieces. So we can see that deepgram, that is what does the voice to text, and we'll go into that. We can actually dig into the call and we can see all of the analysis. We can see here that the model I'm using is the GPT-4, 4.0. There's a stack of, you can muck around. I've used 11 Labs because I wanted to get a nice voice. There are a stack of ugly voices, and I could have cloned my voice for it, but then that feels a bit weird as well. And the last one was the latency from the mode. Now, because this is web, if I actually wanted to stick a phone number on front of this, I would have gone through Twilio, got a number, and it would have gone and used that for the integration. That said, that then adds a bit of latency to it as well. Not to the point where you go, hey, that feels awkward, but it's enough where it's just, I think, at the point where you can have a natural conversation. So digging in, I don't want to take up too much time, but
Rich, I've just got a quick question.
Please.
With the latency, like one of the questions you asked was like, you gave specific like parameters, what time, day, people, and then it kept talking. Could you start fetching that at that point and then the talking covers up some of the loading?
yes. Yes, and I can show you a couple of things there. So let's dig into that real quick. So if we go into the wait and the stop speaking. So in here, and that's a bit low on the ground. So if we go in here, the number of words and the back off seconds. So I finished talking. She in the background actually went off and did a whole bunch of stuff, and it probably took a little bit longer than it should have because it's first run today. Subsequent runs seem to take less time. Don't ask me why, but that's just how it is. But then she started, realising that I wasn't talking, she wasn't talking. Then she prompted to make sure that I was still there or, people were there. I could have just stretched that out. or she could have made some filler words and gone, hey, I'm just, and you know, one of the other things you can do is you can put sound effects at the back of it. So it could have sounded like she was writing or doing something. So you've got some kind of prompt, some auditory prompt. But yeah, you're 100% right. I've tuned this a little bit, but I haven't tuned it to the point. So she's doing that there. I'm going to do two more things. I'm going to show the under the hood things.
Sorry, quick dumb question. What are we looking at? What software is this?
Sorry, this is Vappy. Vappy is one of many front-end tools that allow you to plug voices in. So imagine this, when you think about the web, you've got, you know, the web layer, you've then got maybe some integrations, then you've got, you know, some business function, then you've got your database from a stack point of view. Instead of the web layer, this is just a voice layer. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So there's a stack of these. I could have used 11 Labs Direct. I could have used SynthFlow.
So this is basically the orchestration of all the different LLM pieces and so forth, yeah?
For the front end LLM, but I'll show you then the backside now. One of the things I did want to show before we jump in there is the observe. So we're going to look at the call log. So we can see this is the call which I've just made. We've got all of the logging, so we can see the checkpoints, we can see the bits and pieces. We've got the full playback transcript here, which can play that. What's interesting is the transcript. And the reason why this is interesting is that you've got the ability for a feedback loop, where currently Emily's a bit silly, and she'll just follow a script. But what I could do is have a loop in there to go, hey, at this point here, how could this be better? And she will go back and try out or maybe A/B test different modes of operation. That's what you'd use there. The analysis, because this was either a kind of a pass-fail, it wasn't a sales event, it wasn't any kind of other interaction. You know, this is reasonably simple where I just had, did you make a booking? Did it go through? Yes, it did, true. And the analysis there kind of talks around what actually happened in the conversation. So we can see that she made the booking. I think I said that I was pescatarian and vegetarian or gluten-free. So she captured all of that. That's then a piece of information that can go through to the chef or go through to the restaurant as well as part of that booking. Jump in here. So this really is then the API call. But what I'll do real quick is I used N8N, which is basically a workflow orchestrator. I could have used Make, I could have used Zappy. I just picked one just to stitch things together. I'm self-hosting, which is probably why it took a little bit longer. We can see the transactions here, but what I want to do is from a workflow point of view with Emily, we had three. So one was to update the appointment schedule, to reserve the table, and to update the table availability. And so I had three workflows which were being orchestrated by Emily. So she called them at different times. So she made sure that there was a table available. And if there wasn't, she would have come back and said, hey, here are some other options, you know, pick something else. So there was that. She then made the reservation. So she captured my name, and if we go into yeah, we should see that reservation here, which was this one here. So is it 11? Well, probably close-ish. So we can see that the reservation was there. So she's gone through, and then she did an update to this sheet to go, hey, we've had a booking here. Here's the reservation. Don't book over it. And so for next time, you know, now that record's been updated. So it seems like a lot of kind of action in the back end for not a lot of kind of activity at the front, if that makes sense. Happy to share more, happy to answer
Rich,
questions.
there's a lot to that. Really great. So I just got sort of two quick questions. So what do you know, your time at Zendesk, you're obviously seeing this kind of, you know, really, Zendesk, I guess, brought the web to customer service. And now we're seeing this whole different modality coming in with voice and video and all these different things. Something like that, would that be relatively straightforward to just plug into your existing IVR system? Would you just sort of reroute the phone number to the intelligent agent now. So, you know, your customer yesterday, they called and a human answered it, or it went through one of those crappy sort of point and click IVR things, to now, you know, they call it the next day and they have this really great customer experience. Is that your vision for it?
Yes, and I think what we have there is, you think, do we have one agent that does everything? No. What you want to have is one agent, or so you want multiple agents. So you want a team. So if you think about how contact centers are arranged now, usually there is that kind of IVR front door where you've got to click through, and maybe you want to try and push as many people into self-service traditionally. And then once they've mashed the keyboard or yelled enough, then they actually go through to a person. What we have now is the ability to have an agent, but to scale out horizontally and to take all of those calls and to go, hey, what can I do to help you? You know, what we found is that at Zen, most people call up because they either want information, they haven't gone online to look at stuff to self-service. So if you can get rid of, 60% of all of those calls, before they even get through to an agent, then you've eliminated, more than half of the work. Then you're left with 40% that then can be either dealt with by another agent and then escalated through to a person.
Great.
Or rotated around a team.
There's almost like a reception or triage agent that then routes to specialist agents or humans as it needs to, based on that.
That's it. Yeah. And those kind of handoff points, you can either do a seamless one, which is, hey, my name's Rich, thanks for calling ABC. I'm going to route you through now to somebody who's going to be able to help in billing. This is Trevor. I'll just get him on. Hey, Trevor, are you there? Yes. Hey, I've got Margaret, she needs a hand with her billing. Can you help? Yep, no worries. Hand off, bang. And so then you've got all of that kind of smooth handoff, and it seems like you're actually being passed through. One of the things that I did have Emily, she was meant to say, hey, I'm an AI agent. And, what I want to do is to make sure that people know they're speaking with an agent, with an AI, not a person. Yeah. Because I think that kind of pretending is not.
No, it's fraught with danger.
Exactly.
Excellent. Big hand for Rich.
Okay, so I suspect you're going to see some pretty cool shit today. Not this, but from people who are very technical like Rich. So let me show you what somebody with zero technical skills can do vibe coding. So I'm going to give some background here because there's a bit of context. So I work as a fractional sales lead with early stage startups, which I did after my own startup crashed into the ground a couple of years ago. And on the side, started helping out other fractionals who want to kind of move into that space. So I started a community, and for the longest time, it was a free Slack group. I couldn't figure out how to, really justify moving to a paid model. And I've spoken to about 1,000 people to help them go through this process. And Rich was like, hey, what's this fractional thing? I was like, great, mate. Yeah, we'll do a couple of workshops. We can do it. You're a product guy. Would you mind just putting in a diagram? Put it in that's what product guys do, right? So in the space of about 2 hours, Rich went bang. And incredible structured thinking. And so now I've got my 5 or 6 chapters, my subheadings. Okay, great. Now I can kind of weaponize this content. And then using Claude, of course, I've got a writing assistant that I built that mirrors my style. I was able to create effectively a 10,000 word guide, which now lives inside the community on a dedicated platform. So great, 10,000 words. That's a big chunk of text for people to go through. And I could see on the analytics that people weren't really engaging all that much. So I threw a poll out to the community, hey, what would make this easier? And thankfully for me, because that's one that I really wanted, they said, what about a conversational AI bot? Like, great, that gives me a good excuse. So last week, in the session when we were supposed to be playing with Cursor, I was like, that's really hard. But inspired by, what was the guy from week 3? Bert? Andrew. He had mentioned that they built that effectively a clone or a digital bot. So there's a tool called Delphi. I don't know if you come across that one. There's LennyBot, if you know Lenny Rachinsky. He built LennyBot on there. So I was like, okay, that looks great. So I've got my 10,000 words. I can now just throw it straight into Delphi. So in about 45 minutes, I went from 0 to production ready on this thing. So I've got literally a Google Doc that has it in there. I didn't need to modify it. Again, I'm a no-coder. I've got no technical skills whatsoever. Throw it in there. It's ready to roll. I have a digital clone, which looks like this. Let's see how this goes. The voice is trained. This includes voice training, which took about 2 minutes, and the output is not 11 Labs quality. Hi, clone. I'm about to move into the fractional world. I want to find my first clients as a fractional CMO. Can you help me?
Like it's listening now.
Hi, I'm a fractional CMO. I want to find some clients. Can you help me?
Well, congrats on stepping into this space. It's a game changer for both you and the companies you'll help. Now let's talk about getting those first clients through the door. The key is to start with your existing network. Seriously, your network is your gold mine right now. Most people don't realize how many opportunities are already sitting there. They just need to know you're available and what specific problems you solve. Here's what I do. First, lock in your niche and value proposition. For example, are you focused on Series A startups looking to scale?
Okay, I'm not going to let that play on, but you get the idea. You
The voice is fantastic.
Yeah, that was actually good.
Yeah.
You can also do chat, and you can see the kind of response here. And so then I plug that back into the community. It's now available to anybody who pays their kind of $40 a month, and they get access to Zach as a service. I'm like, okay, great, that's good. People can access that, but how can I? What else can I do with this thing? And they've got a paid version in Delphi, so you can release a paid version. I thought, well, that might be good as really just a marketing exercise. You know, I don't want to devalue it by making it freely available because people are paying to get access to this thing within the community. But if I put a nominal price on it, then I can launch on Product Hunt and get some nice backlinks, get some SEO. Right, okay, I need a page. So this is still in the session yesterday. So we're about an hour into development. I wanted to play with Lovable. So Lovable, if you haven't seen it before, is basically you talk to it in natural language, and it will create a page for you. So great. Used, I think, Claude to create the prompt for me, threw the prompt in, and now I have a page. And that looks pretty good. It's got some quotes in there, which were obviously made up, but I can adjust that. And here's how you get access to it, and some FAQs. And it's consistent with the existing website. So it's used that as part of the chat. So I can put this page directly into the website and away I go. But of course, as I mentioned, I'm not technical and I don't know what I'm doing. This page in Lovable is coded and my site's in Webflow. So how the hell do I do that? Looking around, I asked Twitter, which was my first LLM where I get all my good ideas for. And somebody told me about a service called Reloom. I don't know if you've seen Reloom before, but it's basically an AI tool that lets you design things for Webflow. You can put a URL in there as inspiration. So I took the URL from Lovable, threw that in there to Reloom, and now it puts out, the output is Webflow style. And now that's my page. And now I have this page, which is consistent, load it straight in there. Away we go, and I'll launch on Product Hunt next week. We'll look forward to getting your vote.
Fantastic, well done.
Okay, so the inspiration for what I started to build came from trying to utilise data from Garmin Watch. After a race, I realised that I was getting all this data and I was just doing nothing with it. So I started to work out how was I going to get Garmin data into the agent, and then the agent be able to actually help analyse that and then provide feedback. So I sort of had it a lot further down the track. I've had to revert to this version of it. But where it ended up was I've got an investment in a couple of physio allied health practices. And so we started to work on developing, I guess, the clinician side of that. So the consumer side would be I sign up, I get access to the agent, and then it helps me train, recover, whatever. But from the clinical side, this is actually where it really started to get interesting. So I've used a number of different things. I've built my own agent called Goma, and Goma is now a corporate advisory investment agent that helps do a whole raft of things around working out capital structures, working out share swaps. I've used that to create IP transfer agreements. I've used it to create basically everything for my new startup, which is called Zone Blue. And this is the sort of first product of that, Zone Blue. Zone Blue is all focused around how do we stay healthier for longer as we get older. And it's targeted sort of around that 45 to 75 year age group. So this is really sort of the pitch, if you like. The idea is that the patients have the wearable data that comes into, so it gives that comprehensive patient insight. It analyses movement patterns. We're using Whoop at the moment, so we're getting a lot of activity data from that, but making sense of that activity data and putting it into practical protocol and application. So then during treatment, there's the real-time clinical system where they can query, they can use, put scans, x-rays and help them diagnose. And then from there, once they've diagnosed, they can create the protocol using the agent and then push it to the device for that patient, and then they get real-time feedback. So during visits, they're getting continuous monitoring. They're getting the form analysis as well from the exercises that they're doing in recovery. And then it also helps with the documentation. So one of the big things they've got to do, which all of them hate doing, is the referral letters across back to the GPs, the surgeons and everybody else that has referred that patient to them. And in a lot of cases, they've got insurance compliance as well from work cover and everything else and NDIS that they have to do a lot of documentation on. So the idea is Thea is going to help work through all that as well. And the concept is that it's sort of the AI is going to learn the clinician style and work with them. Monitor the progress, identify patterns that potentially are missed. Phase 2 of this thinking is then how do we bring in some of the biomarkers, the bloods and everything else, and we have that complete holistic view of the health, right? That's what we're doing, isn't it, Rich?
That's 100% what we're doing.
So interestingly, again, developing the model and all of this really has been done with AI. So I've sort of had at some stages a team of designers, lawyers, corporate advisors pulling all this together. And we're still working through all of this stuff. Obviously, it's conceptual, but we're working towards this type of a pricing model. So it's a volume you pay for knowledge, right? You actually pay for the labour and I think that's where it's going to go. I might be wrong, but and then the social proof, frequently asked questions, and then we go down to ready to transform your practice. Here we go. So what I started out with, what I've managed to do is I've created the database, the authentication, so you can log on, you can create a customer account. I've created a customer account here. That customer account hopefully takes me into my dashboard, and at the moment I've just got some data feeding in there showing, mocked up because it broke, but it was actually showing progress. And then I've managed to get the data scores in there. At the moment, all I'm showing is sleep score and activity score. I had a full dashboard working in there last night. So you can imagine how pissed off I am about that. And then the AI assistant. So this is running off Sonnet 3.5 at the moment, but we just got some basic prompts here. I've got the instruction a little tight at the moment because so there's a sort of quick response. So that's taking into consideration my current loads, my fatigue levels, my training, everything else, and I've trained it at the moment on only a couple of major things, but the Master's Guide to Triathlon and Master's Athletic Guidebook, whatever it is, Master's thing. So it's feeding off all that, and then I've also got some other physio protocols and other things that it's running off. So that's as good as I could do. I'm sorry.
Really good. Really good.
Okay, so a little bit of background. This is a bit of a small project that I try to do during COVID, and I abandoned because it was too hard to do. What we do is we started as an online coaching platform for triathletes, runners, doing sports, and like about 14 years ago. And during that period, we've extended to corporate health programs and other things, using the same pretty much methodology that we have. During COVID, we already had probably half of our clients were corporate clients and the other half were individual subscriptions. Individual subscriptions went like down, as opposed to what everyone else thinks that because everyone got into fitness. No, it's actually they got into free Instagram videos, not so much into paid subscriptions, and we're not cheap. So what we do is a bit of high-end service. So pretty much everyone started saving money and abandoned the ship. So we stayed alive thanks to our business clients. In order to survive and keep a little bit of those individual subscriptions, we started doing a lot of tests and a lot of new things. So one of the things is there's for cyclists, they have a thing called Swift that they just pretty much just imagine this big screen and you're in your house with a trainer, and then you just start training there, and it's quite fun. In order to do that, you can just hook on and do it, but if you wanted to follow our programs, you needed a file to know exactly what you were doing. So we put out that file, and it worked great. Like there's a lot of people that just stayed just for that. So it's like, okay, so let's do a bit more of this. And one of the things that we tried was follow along audio files, and that really worked. Like that got people hooked. You know, it's just like you go out for, especially we're talking people going out for 2-hour runs or whatever, so it's just a lot of them listen to podcasts or things. So we put together the whole podcast instructions from the coach. The idea is like, imagine you're going out for a run and you have a coach next to you riding his bike and telling you, do this, do that. So that was the whole concept, and we did it, and it worked great, but it was really hard to scale because we had,
I was a user, it was great.
We had to actually record everything and edit the whole thing, and we have tens of thousands of workouts, so it was really hard to do it. So I'll say it in the drawer and some other day, and this is that some other day, like with the other day just chatting with Chris is like, man, this is probably when we can do this in a very easy way. So that was a test. And so the really hard thing here is not the voice. Well, it's hard now, that's where I'm stuck now, but it's not a big problem really. The voice, as we've seen, is a solvable thing. But that was the thing that actually got me thinking, this is something we can do now because the voice can be just automated. But the big issue for me while I was working with this last week is getting a text file into a structured output that actually you can then convert into sets of audios, and then you can put them all together, get music, what do you want me to talk about during this period of time when you're going to be out for a run, things like that. So structuring that into a form that we can send to the model and get the information back, that was a hard thing. So pretty much, let me see. So this is Spanish, sorry, but this is kind of one of the things that you have, like that text right down there. That's just a set of instructions that we then need to convert into voice. So the first thing was, I broke it because I tried to make this graphic interface. That's the problem where I broke it. If I was just using cursor, it's just easier, but I wanted to show it, so anyway, I just yeah. So here, imagine I have a number of these files. One of them is this. That represents the thing that I just showed you. And then, this is an optional thing. Do you want to have a little bit of a chat about something? And then so here say, okay, let's talk about the NBA game yesterday. And here's the first thing. This part right here took me 85% of the time that I've spent in this, like just to get to this JSON files. So this is the music data that what I did is I identified each of the instructions that you saw in that first file. So 10 minutes doing this, 5 minutes doing that, whatever. And I put it all together and said, okay, so I gave it rules, right? The first beat is an intro for 1 minute, and I want this to be different type of music. And then the workout itself is going to have a background music that then we can override with specific music for a high intensity interval, for example, right? You just want to go hard. But at least we have one basic audio file of music for that workout, and then an outro music just to kind of tell you what's next and whatever. So this is putting together all those rules. It's defining the name of that file, where it sits in our directory, how long it's gonna last, when it starts. So again, this is like it starts at second 0 for 60 seconds, right? So this is the intro. Then the workout has different moments and so on. So again, and then inside the workout, we have silence times where we use this to tell people like, okay, listen to your steps, listen to your breathing, chill for a bit, don't listen to anything, just, listen to the ocean wherever you are. You don't have to be listening to music all the time. So we tell you, we're gonna have this amount of time in silence. So all of that was defined in that step. And then there's another one for voice. So these are the instructions, the intro, the instructions, notes from the coach, the entertainment bit. This is where we're gonna talk about the game from last night, or if we wanna see the news or talk about anything you really want, then that's where this is coming in. Silence, instructions, more and more, depending on how many intervals we have in the workout, then it just keeps going. And there's rules. If the interval is very, very short or very high intensity, we don't want anyone talking to me when I'm pushing hard. So it's just like a little bit of music, just tell me what I need to do and shut up, right? So then we do that. If there's a longer kind of easy time where you're gonna be jogging easily, then maybe you can deal with something, and then we define with some rules how long each thing is gonna last. Sounds are timers and countdowns and things like that. I got it all together first, and then it for me, just visually to see it separately and then put it all together was easier because I was getting confused on times and things like that, just to audit if I was doing it right. So anyway, that's the output. So if you see that the beauty of this is I use cursor, of course, to do all this. If you see this was, I've spent quite a bit of time with this one. I started last week at the event, but I put, good hour and a half every day, a bit more at nights, because I actually want to use this. So this is a good setup for me to get to a point where I go, okay, this is good enough, and then maybe get the pros in and code it properly and make it to production. But they wouldn't be able to do any of this because they don't understand any of these bits, you know, the rules or any of that. I mean, I can have a team of 10 developers next to me and it's gonna take forever for me just to explain all of this. So the beauty of that is that I can just, you know, get down to it and get this. So again, this was a really long time to get to this properly, right? Then what I do here is once I'm, okay, and also there's another one called audio Windows data, which this is what I actually use to send to the next step, which is the script. So I generate the script. And what I'm doing now is everything before that was just code. No LLMs, nothing, just code. I used code to build it, but you know, which I think there's a lot of confusion that I see lately. The other day that I had the chat with a few of you, it's like the confusion between using AI to build the thing. It's like pretty much a lot of people were just doing that, not so much using AI as the thing. So this part is I'm using AI to build the thing, but there's no AI involved after that. Then the next steps, there is AI as part of that, accelerating the process. So anyway, I generate the script, and what it did now was send this to an LLM with specific instructions of what we need to do. So yeah, you know, like it gives a bit of an intro, then it tells what this is gonna be your first interval, then some tips, then we let you know it's gonna be some quiet time, then again then you see this is B1, so block 1, block 2, there's instructions for what's coming next, etc. right? So we're telling the model, write a script for a voice actor to, you know, use this. So I mean, I think it's still, for what I got, I still need to tweak that prompt because I need it to be a bit more precise on the exclamation marks and the point, and you know, just everything needs to be a lot better if you actually want this to sound right. Some of this text doesn't really sound right, but if you just add a comma, all of a sudden just the model just makes it so much better. So I think I need to work on that prompting, but well, this is what I got. This is where I actually broke this part, because then I need to get the entertainment context in it from a different model. Because this doesn't need anything but a good writing model. And the other part, the entertainment context, is coming from Perplexity in this case, because it needs to get the latest data, like current data, and all the others. Even OpenAI that says it has a new one that apparently surfing the web on the moment, it got really bad results for what I did. So Perplexity, Sonar, actually the old one I showed you, Chris, the one that I'm using is Perplexity. Not this one. This is the one that everyone's using now, but Perplexity. If anyone wants to serve use the web as results, the older one that they have, this one was the best. The very oldest one. And it's good because it's cheaper, it has decent context window, and it gave me the best results. Didn't hallucinate at all. I asked about things that just happened and it was pretty good. So anyway, I send that to that model and I get that back, and it's not gonna happen here, but then I generate this audio workout, which is the next step here is, I'll show you in cursor. The next step is I get these files, individual files, just the silence.
Focus on the sound of your feet and the consistency of your movement.
So that's some of those little files I'm getting back.
We'll have a quiet moment now. Use this time to check in with your breathing rhythm and how your body feels as it warms up.
So the first ones that I got were very clunky, very bad, and just working with the prompt is gonna be better. Also searching for better voices, I think that's tricky, but I think it's worthwhile if we actually use this. And then the last part is putting it all together. So I have another script that once it has all of those, it puts it all together. And that was messy as well because it's using FFmpeg, which is great, but it's also it's hard. It's hard to use. So even though I'm not actually coding it, it does a lot of crazy things. It mutes it. It does a bunch of things. So you have to do it step by step. So I had to divide it in little chunks. And so in the end, I got, well, this is not really great, but this is, I'll show you real quick. This one. No, actually, yeah, this. How it looks, as in how it puts it together. And again, of course, a lot of you don't care about this, but it's just the fact that without coding, I was just able to do actually, I think this is a very complex thing to do.
Super complex.
So the effects track right here, it gives you all the little effects like countdown and whatever. And then I have this is the final mix, but this is the music tracks right here. And then the voice track, and then you put it all together. And I don't know how this one's gonna sound, but let's try. Oh, is that the, was that, is this output?
Yeah,
this?
that one.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I didn't get the music.
Hey, welcome to today's workout. We'll do a progressive session with 4 intervals. 3 minutes in zone 1, 7 minutes in zone 2, a quick 1-minute push in zone 5, and finish with 4 minutes in zone 1. I'll guide you with instructions, tips, and time checks. Let's get moving. Your first interval is 3 minutes in zone 1 when you hear the beep. Keep it easy and controlled. This is your warm-up phase.
It just keeps going. This is gonna tell me.
Focus on your posture during this warm-up. Keep your shoulders relaxed and your head up, letting your arms swing naturally at your sides.
And then
imagine the roar of the crowd, the scorching sun beating down on the Shanghai International Circuit, and the thrill of Formula One cars speeding by at breathtaking velocities. The recent Chinese...
So anyway, I asked it to tell me about anything that was just very recent to test it, and it was like, okay, let's Formula One, and it did. And then I changed that. That's another one that you just, again, if you just change very little things on the prompt for that, it makes it look more natural. Because if you hear that, it's a bit like I don't know. I guess you'll get tired of listening to that tone after a while. But it's very easy to change just one little thing in the prompt and get very natural sounding conversation from that. So anyway, that's
really cool.
I gave myself a challenge. Can I write something really useful in the time from when I walked in the door to now? So, just some evidence.
What did you say, Steve? You just built this?
I just built this now. So, there we go.
This is real.
You can see
code.
that I started this at 11. Okay, what is it? Open README. Let's. I don't want that. Okay, that's fine. Screen Viber. A simple Python tool that analyzes screenshots using AI, then renames them based on their content. So I take a lot of screenshots every day and then I forget what the hell was that. And I've been trying to find somebody's script that can do this for me, and I was like, this morning I just went, screw it, let me do it myself. So, let's get a screenshot. How about, now this is serious, like live as it's happening. So let's go to Region Hub. Okay, let's see what it will tell us. A wonderland for AI nerds. I mean, how appropriate. Okay, so there's the screenshot. I've just taken it. I'm just going to say copy. I'm just going to paste in here. All right, and I'm going to go and run UV run screen viber, and then that's the one now, 11:35. Go. Okay, extracted text, AI workspace building, new path, AI workspace building .png. And if we list here, there's AI workspace building. So this was just like a handful of prompts. There were a few things that didn't quite get right, and just talking about the difficult parts. I mean, if you go through, I got a lot of errors, but I just kept pushing it and just say, like here, that's a poor prompt, because I was saying, hey, how come you as cursor could recognize the image, but I was getting garbage out? And then it came up with some prompt and I was like, no, that was poor. So anyway, just something really useful. Now what I will do is, there is a utility called Hazel, which is a very old utility, runs on the Mac, and you can have it watch a folder. So what I'll do is I will just tell my screenshot utility now to put stuff into the screenshots folder, and Hazel will just watch it, and then I'll just now get nicely named screenshots. The other cool thing about writing this little app yourself is the fact that I can go in and customize it. So if I say prepend the date to all screenshots, use ISO 8601.
What's ISO 8601?
Hang on a sec, including seconds. Just the standard date format, YYYY-MMs-DD. Okay, so it's gonna do it now. Let's see what it comes up with. But the fact that you can do this so quickly and easily is awesome. Okay, I have a few quick hits. So this over here is, so what I'm trying to do is I currently use a utility called YNAB. You need a budget, but there's a lot of things in YNAB that I'm not happy with. I gave a few things to Cursor the other day and I was like, yeah, this is okay, but it's not as slick as I think it could be. And I thought, let me try one of the other tools. And so I tried something called V0, which is part of Vercel's thing. It's v0.dev. And the one thing about V0 is it's intimately aware of a component library called shadcn. And what shadcn is if we go and look at the components, it's hundreds of awesome sort of predefined things that one might use on a daily basis when building up a user interface for a SaaS or an application, for example. And there's hundreds of stuff in here. And if we click on blocks, there's entire sort of, I guess, boilerplate type websites that it's come up with. So, sidebar with side menus, et cetera, login page, things that are pretty standard among SaaS apps. The challenge though is, well, before AI is, even if all this is pre-built, it's going to take you a very long time to kind of assemble everything together. So what I did was, a few hours on Saturday afternoon, I went in here to V Naught and I said, look, I want to build a budgeting app, take some inspiration from this screenshot. So if we go and we look at, I gave it a screenshot of, the first thing I did, was I gave it a product requirements document that I just put together in, ChatGPT or Claude. And I just said, look, these are the things that I want. I gave it some very loose things and it sort of came back with this. And then I also gave it a screenshot, which you'll see still had the shit screenshot name before I did my tool. So that's a screenshot of YNAB the way it is at the moment. And I said, all right, can you recreate this? And it recreated a pretty faithful representation of what that is. The thing though is I don't like it, it's old, it's 10 years old, it's very sort of, so I said to it, let's have a look here. So version 1, I don't want to go and restore just in case. And I just said, trying to remember where it was. I just said, look, modernize it, right? And so this is what it came up with. So let's,
So crazy.
So what it's done is it somehow on its own decided I wanted a dashboard with a balance history in this account, working balance, it shows some recent transactions. And then, you can choose dates, it put a calendar in here. It even put in, which uses a keystroke Command K, but search transactions, I can go in here, shows me some recent transactions, balance on certain accounts. You can, not all of this works yet, but you can choose which account you want to see. Click on transactions, there's a list of transactions. You can even see the Coke that I bought for the whopping price of $5.55 the other day at the Parisian Hotel. Because this was a screenshot that came out of my my real YNAB.
Steve, can I just say that the session at Beauty Hub Sunshine is wonders for you?
So, fortunately I have an excuse.
Was a haircut?
Call my wife, it's a haircut.
Which one did they cut?
But it's put in things like edit transaction, split transaction, add transaction. It's even made a little dialogue. It says, is this income, expense, payee name? It doesn't auto-complete those yet, but it kind of got some categories right. I mean, this gave me a massive.
It's basically NAB. You created NAB.
It's created NAB. Not YNAB, but NAB. Interestingly, NAB sued YNAB in Australia because the name.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the sky's the limit now, right? Tell me all the stupid things I spent money on this month, e.g.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. So what I wanted to do, at the moment, like the key thing.
How bad is my coffee habit? All those sorts of questions.
Exactly. And, I think there's a lot of potential for this. I didn't have time to sort of go any further with it. I did try and say, all right, now hook it up to a database. I think I need to now sort of move it back into Cursor and so on. So I do have one other quick, not that one.
Sorry, man, just back to that one. The reason that you chose V0 is because it has access to all of that library with all of the assets you want it to look like.
Correct. So
you can take it from there back into Cursor to start stitching the back end?
I can, absolutely. So the beauty about this is I can just go in here and sorry, it's not there, but where is it? It's here. There we go. Add to code base. Run this command in your console or download a zip. Sweet. And it will just download everything else. So anyway, there was one other thing. I hate spreadsheets, and so what I've done is no, I love spreadsheets. I just hate spreadsheets for capturing text information. Especially multi-line text information. And so one of the things we're doing, as a mention of HIPAA earlier, we're doing a HIPAA compliance audit and a SOC 2 compliance audit, and I have 93 controls that I'm currently doing. I wanted to just write some comments next to each control, but to go through a spreadsheet of 93 controls and to be able to read all of this in detail, said, screw it, I gave Cursor, this was Cursor, I just said, make me a very simple user interface that I can scroll through this list of 93 items. They're in a CSV, keep it in the CSV, and that's exactly what it did. And I just go, next, look through here, all right, there's fine, okay, access manager, need to write new policy, be sure to blah, save, and I go next, and if I go back, it's there, and it's in the CSV as well. So this took me 20 minutes. Something I would never have thought about doing before, ever. It was like, what? Go and write a bloody web app just to do something, I can do it in the spreadsheet. But this is just so much more pleasant for me, and I can copy and paste, and I can, do stuff that, multi-line editing, spreadsheets are not made for that. They're made for doing calculations.
It's much more accessible for people too that don't want to go into the spreadsheet, right?
Yeah. Now, look, this was just for my own purposes. This is throwaway, I probably won't use it again. Nice thing though was like, okay, now I need to know if I look in the actual compliance system. So I said, just build me a hyperlink to take me to the actual control, and I click on there, and now it logs me into the OneLead platform, and there is the actual control and any stuff that needs to go with it.
Very nice. Well done, Steve.
So I'm Rob Lineker, Sparky builder and now app developer. So I started learning Python back in 2020 to just because it was a bit of a passion. I wanted to get into app development, and then I got busy with work, and being a builder, you get no time to yourself. So then I decided to start my own construction company, which made things way worse because I had even less time. But being a builder, I had to use software, and all the software on the market I found was pretty rubbish. So I went with the best one I could find, and in the background I've just been learning app development. Specifically, I decided to go with React and Next.js, and I've just been loving it ever since. So I thought I would just quickly show you how to use MCP servers, Cursor, and the Cursor
Before that, Rob,
agent.
tell us about ConSuite, which is the
sorry.
new startup.
So ConSuite is a construction management app, so manages all the financials, contracts, everything up until the point you get to site, and when you get on site, there's another app that I run, that I'm invested in, that they look after all that stuff. So from lead CRM generation to tendering to quoting to managing the project, orders and variations, all that sort of stuff, we run through our app. So the reason why I think this might be valuable is this is kind of really in the mud, just how you actually use Cursor to its full advantage. If you are wanting to take the next step, Steve, I know you're talking about running CSVs and stuff, but I've been using Supabase, and I don't know if anyone's familiar with Supabase. It's database as a service. It's bloody awesome. I think they just raised another $1 billion or something like this. It's just crazy. And MCP servers for Cursor just took a big jump last week. Like, everything's moving so fast, it's insane. But previously, you could only have MCP servers on Cursor on your account, and it would actually share them across projects. It was a nightmare. So you couldn't actually run too many projects with MCP servers, but now you can actually have MCP servers per project. That's not too small for people. I mean,
you can bump it a little bit.
So I've got, I actually, just for demonstration, I brought up my second project I'm working on. So this is an MCP server that goes to the ConSuite project, and on a different project I've got another MCP server that is for this particular project, and now they're so separate you don't actually cross-pollinate the queries and everything. So
I can just take 1 second to explain what's going on here. So when you're working with a database, up until now, it's been a pretty specialized and pretty complex process of running scripts and literally setting up tables and queries and so on and so forth. And what Rob's talking about is there's a database, there's a service platform called Supabase. But even Superbase, which has been running for a number of years now, you're still having to log in and make changes and so on. And what this MCP server is effectively a little database agent that runs here alongside you that you can just ask to do the things that you would previously have done with the database. Make a table, move data, create a query, ... Previously, you'd have to go and do that all manually, and now he's able to do
So
it.
yeah, like this is a visual example of like, I've got over 100 tables running this app. Like it's incredibly complex, and I'm a solo dev. No one else is helping me with this. I've built all of this from scratch myself. Every table, you know, talks to one another, and what I was doing literally was going into Claude, saying what I wanted to do. It would spit out the Superbase SQL. I'd dump it into here and move on with my day. But then, being full stack, you need the front end to talk to the back end, and I literally created scripts to run every time I ran a migration. I ran a script in my workspace to fetch the up-to-date database comeback, but then Cursor would have a fit because it's like 70,000 lines with all the functions and stuff. So I had to create a Python script to identify the table and the policies and split every single thing into files. I'd run it, but it'd probably just crash. But I had to have all these like back, you know, all these hacked up bits of code to try and make it work, and I'd have to run it every time I made a change. It was just a nightmare. Then MCP came along, and it's just a dream. So what I thought I would do is actually do a like real-time update that I want to make to my app. So this is a real-life project we're running in production. I don't really care if you see it all. It's all fine. But just one quick demonstration as well is I just pulled up a Git of last week. So this is what the app looked like last week. Tables are up here. The nav bar's up there. It's looking okay. But then I've got my team down here, and I got some inspiration off the Springboard people, and I thought I better jazz it up because I look a bit silly now. So I got some info. I've moved my team up to here. I can click on any one of these, and I can open the Teams chat, email, phone number, go to the user, and all that sort of stuff. It can actually. My goal is to have that on, like, have it online if they're on the page at the moment. But that was a vibe code. Oh shit! I just want to move it around. I played around with it and came up with that. Matter of half an hour. So what I wanted to do is actually these variations, for instance. I'll show you how Cursor works in that it talks to the database. I want to actually create an assignee to variation. So we're up, if I get to details. Cool, so I'll just do the prompt.
So in this one, Rob, you're doing both a UI change and something that needs database access for the UI change.
To be honest with you, Cursor's like sometimes it gets that ahead of itself. It's like, hey, I also did this and I also did this. I thought this would be cool too. So, and like there's a few rules and things that I've put in place to make it do what I want it to do, but that's like with anything, like you just start building your own little library of how you want to run apps and stuff. And you'll notice here, I'll just zoom it in. It needs to keep checking the query because you'll notice it's doing a different thing every time. So all I've told it is I've got a whole bunch of spelling errors that it doesn't really care. I just sent it on its way. So it's doing all these calls to my database. And the beauty of Superbase is, yes, I'm using the paid version for that because I've got like point in time recovery for 7 days. Every second I can get a backup, and I need that because it's important. But another app I was starting last week is, or any app, just go on Superbase, create a free account, and you can you could probably do production with maybe 100 or 200 users with a free account. Like it's actually not a big deal. and then you just chuck it in your ENV file, sign it up. And now it's modifying my variation details file, this file here. And it will need to give me a migration file. I haven't told it that, but it's in my rules. I ask for migration files. Now the reason why I'd ask for the migration file is, if you know anything about databases, if you just push stuff without vetting it, it can really make...
You can screw it up.
Oh, absolutely. So I just ask for a migration, and that's what I do still paste back in. And I still paste that back in, but at the end of the day, that just gives me one final check before I run it. And yes, Superbase will say this is a critical thing, do you want to run it, are you sure, and all that sort of stuff, but just push on and hope for the best. So yeah, it's just doing the change now, and like with anything with Cursor, and particularly Next.js, it hot reloads, so sometimes it'll just be hot reloading a faulty code, but we push on.
You know how it's calling MCP the whole time?
Yeah.
Is that something that you gave it as an instruction, as a rule, that it knows that reference?
No, I mean, it's trying to solve a problem, and it's got the MCP tool as the tool to use.
Yeah.
So
And in some ways, it's doing investigation, isn't it? It's
it
sort of,
absolutely is, yeah.
it's sort of trying to understand the schema, so it'll find something, that'll call another thing to understand it better
Yep.
before it actually starts coding down the end.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, with databases as well, like there's actually quite a lot to query. You know, it needs to actually find foreign keys, policies, you know, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, now it's done that. That's still erroring, but I haven't refreshed it yet. I just wanted to check this. Add a team member, blah blah blah. Important notes, you need to apply the migration. So if I just go to the migration, I think I'll just accept all just to make sure it's good to go. Go to here.
Does Next.js have a built-in migration thing, or did you use a different?
Oh, sorry. So this is Superbase here. So Next.js, Superbase has a command line interface. You can push, pull, do all that sort of stuff. But again, and like, dude, I've been doing this for like a year. I don't really know what I'm doing with that sort of stuff. So I just wanted to make sure I use migrations. And I found Superbase is a bit friendly too. Like it gives solid errors.
Yeah.
With what's going on. And you got the error, copy, paste back in a Cursor, and it just figures it out. So now I've done that, and then for those playing at home, we need to run npm run g types.
So did you just run a test and Superbase returned and said no errors?
No, it hasn't done anything yet. So if I go back here,
Supposed to be G types.
So after you do a certain migration, you need to update your types in your file. To be honest, I'm probably at the point now, when it gives me a migration file, I might get it to just run the G types thing automatically, but there's a bit of, it has to wait for me to do it, all that sort of stuff. So I've run the migration, and that should be all saved. If I refresh this, you know, we're gonna see this all at the same time here. I don't know if it'll work, and now I've got some errors. And if you've used ShadCN or Next, this is a pretty common error. Their select item is a bit funny. And sorry, yeah, just doubling down on what Steve said, ShadCN's amazing. So my stack is Next.js, ShadCN, TypeScript, Superbase, and everything else can be pretty flexible. But like with those four things, you can create a pretty solid web app. Next.js is obviously evolving every couple of months, but I'm on Next.js 14 and it's pretty solid. So yeah, I've just punched that error in and it's figured out what's wrong. It's an empty string. And I get that error so much, I probably should just put it in the rules too, just to avoid it. But yeah. I hope this is okay if I just wait for this to... Cool, assign 2.
Wow.
It's even given me a toast, which I didn't ask for. So again, like Cursor just goes, hey, you might like this, and away you go.
I think that's a Claude 3.7 issue.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit over enthusiastic, whereas
Yeah.
3.5 is still a bit kind of, okay, I'll do what you
But
want.
the funny thing is, right, I love Restore Checkpoint. It's my best friend. Like, if it does that, you literally go back up,
Yeah, exactly.
punch it and start it again.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
What I will just quickly say is on the preferences, cursor settings, sorry, this is getting a bit.
Rob, do you use that as version control or do you push it to Git as well?
Yeah, it's all Git controlled, yeah,
It's all
100%.
Git
Yeah,
controlled.
so I do try and follow good practice and commit when something's working and I move on to the next thing. But I had my navigation really muck up the other day and I had to go through GitHub and find that particular file and redo
Feel
it.
your
whatever.
pain.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. I mean, every part of that story is fantastic. One, doing a live demo like that on your is wild, and it worked.
It'll work.
It worked. But also just the whole story, construction's obviously an incredible industry but it's one of those industries where you can only work on so many projects at the same time. You're gonna build a software platform that will make money while you sleep and that thousands of construction companies could potentially use. So it's a fantastic way of taking your deep domain expertise and creating software in an era where that would have been so hard to do before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well done, really great.
Okay, I will take as long to explain this as I've spent on it, which is 4 minutes. So I mentioned last week, for those who are in the other room, that I wanted to create this, I had this spreadsheet to help me decide what I should do with my next job or next career or whatever. I used it 5 years ago and I've sort of brought it back to life for the period that I'm in at the moment. So I'll talk you through the spreadsheet and then what I've built. So essentially, and I've sort of, I've simplified this a little bit, just the explanation, but my process is basically write down all of my criteria for a job or a business that I might set up. Like, it should be challenging, it should have certain earning potential, it should improve people's lives, have flexible hours, blah, blah, blah. So they're just my labels. The next thing I would do is, well, I need a description for it. So what do I mean by challenging? So I would then say, it challenges me to push myself, problem solve, learn new things, and continue to develop different skills. By collaborative, what I mean is it allows me to collaborate and develop meaningful relationships with the people that I work with, not just transactional relationships, but actually working together to achieve and create something. So each criteria needed a really clear description of what I meant by that. I then went in after I did those two things, and I gave each of those a weighting. So it turned out that a job or career being challenging was really important to me. Earning potential, allowing us to live the sort of life we want to live as a family, that sort of stuff, improving people's lives, blah, blah, blah. There was stuff that, limited social media, meet new people. There was things that I sort of went, okay, I can get that outside of my work, so I don't, it doesn't necessarily need to be as important. And then essentially I started plugging in jobs. So this was back when I was in the UK. I was a wedding photographer for a while, and so I plugged that in and it would spit out a rating. And so I would say between 1 and 5, how challenging is it to be a wedding photographer? And the criteria over here was basically, if we jump over this side, so scoring system, 5, it perfectly meets all of the criteria, 0, it doesn't meet it at all, and everything in between. So I would plug in all of the criteria without even really thinking. I'd be like, I knew what challenging meant, I knew what the job was. I'd plug in and say that's 3 out of 5. Collaborative is this. And then I was working for a travel company that offered me the GM role in Australia, and I went, well, would I want to do that? How well does it match up with, what I said was important to me? So rather than jumping on it because it had a good salary or because it was, whatever, I had something that I could actually score this stuff against. And so when I got to Australia, I ended up applying for jobs and then going through this process after the interview. I would get to the interview stage because the job descriptions are so full of shit that I would want to know. I would go and talk to people and go, this is not what you said. Now I'm going to score it based on what I know this role will be. And then I would pull out of application. I'd say, this isn't for me. I'd plug it in here and go, it's only 56% or whatever. And so this is the process that I went through. I've gone through it with a bunch of other people who have been in a similar situation. And I've always thought I should build something out of that. So like Zach, who said earlier, I'm in the non-tech group in this room. So I'm playing with some of these tools. I chose to use Lovable last week as well. And what I did was basically wanted to recreate this. And so I'll show you what it did and then
how I got to this point. Essentially, it created this website, job match. I didn't give it a name or anything like that. Find you all of this copy. I didn't give it any copy. So it's got find your perfect career match, define your criteria, score job options, visualize the results, and then I put a career coach AI in there as well. And then you click through, you get started, you go into the criteria. I've already put in a bunch of the stuff from before, so you can see challenging, 10 out of 10, collaborative, 7 out of 10. I just copied and pasted these out of here. So one that I didn't do was earning potential. So if I copy that in, what I put in here was if I want to add a criteria, there's the description. I call this earning potential. And I say that that's 9 out of 10 important. I didn't tell it to use sliders or, didn't tell it where to lay things out or anything like that. It's now added earning potential to the bottom. So I can add as many as I want, get rid of them, edit them. I then jump over to jobs. I plugged in the first handful of jobs. So wedding photographer, politician, swim trick GM. What I ended up doing to make sure this worked was plugging in jobs that I thought I would hate to make sure that it gave me a bad score. And so I plugged in, and I had a good mate of mine who I worked on with this in the UK, and he turned it into a game where he'd be like, what is the shittest job for Chad? What would he hate the most? Can we get it to 0? And so night security guard was his worst job. And I was like, yeah, but it does, at least I don't have to do social media. And then he changed it, he said, well, what about if you're a night security guard at Facebook? And so that ended up taking this down to, 0 or 12. And so this allows me to plug in a job. So let's say I want to be the new hub janitor. I add that job and I literally go, well, how is that for challenging? It's very challenging. How is it for collaborative? How is it, I plug whatever the scores are for each of these. Let me just do whatever it is. Now, I haven't gone through and given it any feedback about the layout or anything like that.
Easy on the last one, Nate.
So, there we go. Recalculate all the scores, and then this. Then I continue to the results. Now the graph is not working; it's not giving me the bars, but you can see it said the hub janitor is 72% suitable for me. So this should give me a bar.
Congratulations there.
So it should give me something like this, right? I should be able to look at it and go, okay, well that swim trick GM role was this, and this, midweek magic job idea that I had was that. So it hasn't gotten to there. And then the career coach I haven't even played with. I put that in there, but this is now plugged into something that allows it to understand what my criteria is. So it says I can give you career guidance, decision support, skills development, whatever. And I can have, the idea would be that I could say, hey, you know what's important to me now. What jobs do you suggest? Like, what have I not thought of? And this is, so I said I was going to keep this to 4 or 5 minutes. This is it. What you just saw then was 3 prompts in Lovable that I didn't touch. The first prompt was a description of what I wanted it to build. So the criteria and input and job scoring, job recommendations, generative AI coach section, and the design style. It then went and built it. Now, this is because I didn't pay for Lovable account and I have 5 prompts per day before I run out. So I was like, why not? Because I haven't had time to play with it, is why I'm like, and I said to Rich the other day, like, which tools should I be paying for now? Because I can pay 20 bucks. Like,
all of them.
Yeah, but I'm about to not work for 6 weeks, so I don't want to sign up for 20 subscriptions.
Yeah, well, that's how you solve the not working for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
What you can do is you can get tools that use API keys, and then you can just sign up to a bunch of services, and then you go, whatever tool works, here's my key. And then if I don't like that one, I'll just swap to the other one.
Okay.
So keep going, buddy.
Yeah. So anyway, it was basically, I put 1 prompt and it built more or less this. I then said, it looks like the suitability results chart isn't displaying any bars. Can you fix that? And there was something wrong with the chat. And then just before I was sitting and I said, please make it so that when I add a description to the criteria, I can view this on the criteria card. So this was just when I was over here, I couldn't see what I had written under challenging. But that was, so to, Paul? Rob, sorry, Rob. Rob just talking about integrating stuff with Superbase or with Rich. I know you were asking about integrating with Stripe. Like, there are not many steps for me to go through to allow people to sign up for this service, to potentially, I know
You've
there's.
got your first user, Steve just started using it behind us.
There we go. But that could be set up, links to a database, somebody could pay $5, $5, $50, $500, whatever I decided. It could have, I could vibe code a free trial model on it to say, you can only have 4 criteria unless you pay the subscription, and then you can add all the criteria you want. The AI coach is an add-on, whatever it is.
Nice one.
So,
Chad, have you thought about adding this into your resume to give you a lens to present yourself?
I haven't, but yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Lead with
Tell
it.
them which score they are.
Yeah.
You've basically got a set of values that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So it's a lens to look through roles. So if
Yep.
you're applying to roles, you could put this in as a prompt and get to create a personalised resume that would then speak to
Yeah.
the right people that are looking for someone with your values.
Yep.
Really good.
Yeah.
I must say, Destiny Director is a bloody good name. I think less generic than Job Match. I reckon that's a great name.
No, I hadn't even seen that. That's changed since I think the last prompt updated it in the
Destiny
tab.
Director, I like it.
I think it's
Awesome.
It's using like random.
Yeah, but it just got it right,
Yeah,
didn't
and
it?
it got it right. By the way, it works in mobile.
Works
I
on
just-
mobile, yeah.
I just put it in and it just works. It's like amazing.
Well done, chap.
Thanks for it. Alright, well, I also fall into the bracket of non-coder.
I'm gonna make a rule that after this sprint, no one is ever allowed to go and say the words, I'm a non-coder
Okay.
or I'm non-technical. Those words are now banned, they're not allowed to be used anymore.
Still gonna use them.
You're all techies now.
I'm a viber.
You know that meme, I'm the captain now? It's like, I am the coder now.
So basically, the idea of this came about from our company, NextPoint. We're a technology recruitment company, and we're also building a platform. And basically, the vision for it is to try and make the experience a lot better, but with genuine feedback from clients in real time, and then building as we go. So we're building an overall platform, but this is just like a little test that I've been learning to try and build. And essentially it's to give hiring managers a full picture of the person that they are going to interview. And that's came from some feedback from clients saying they don't feel prepared for the interview, they don't know what's important to the candidate, they don't know their skills. And also there's a lot of data unstructured that they've got to pull. So they've got to do research, they've got to do all their own kind of testing. So what this idea is to give them a kind of one place to go and get like a lot of feedback. So that's through my knowledge of interviewing them, my recommendation, but also then their GitHub analysis, what projects are relevant, what are not. And then also one thing that I think a lot of people forget is it's a two-way process. And when you're hiring someone, you want to find out their strengths, but you also want to find out their growth areas, because that's what's going to keep them in the role, and that's their trajectory. So the idea is really to get these growth areas from detailed interviewing and looking at their projects and where we think they could learn and grow, and then to build that into a development plan for them when the client hires them. So it gives them like a really clear picture of what they're good at, and then the areas that they can level themselves up into. Now, I broke this completely. The idea was the guidelines were build HTML, CSS, and a little bit of JavaScript, Chris, don't go too far. But I tried to build a full Next.js application. Got about halfway through and then gave it to my CTO. So this is version control, and this is kind of where we're at before Greg then does his magic with it.
Very cool. So does it populate that automatically, Chris, from notes and other things?
Yeah, so a few things. It's got a few little tools in the command line that's running kind of a GitHub analysis, and then there's a bunch of analysis from me from the interview. And then the idea is then I've kind of built a little tool in Zapier, which will basically then create like branded documents as well to go with candidates' resumes, and that's to kind of be a bit more tailored to the company as well. And then this is going to plug into the bigger platform that we're building at the moment. And then the last thing is reverse engineering this, so having this for a client too. So what's important to them, what's their areas, what their tech stack is, what their kind of testing capability, and kind of stuff like that for candidates to be able to see as well.
Very cool. I mean, it's time we sort of reinvent the CV as we know it, isn't it? And this kind of thing is is so much more interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And then the idea also is to have like a bit of a chat interface and be able to ask it. So there'll be a knowledge base of the candidate, and the client will be able to say like, what GitHub project would be relevant for me, because like these two might be just for one role that they're thinking about. So there'll be like a little chat interface that they'll be able to interact with, and it'll be like a full kind of platform for them.
Very cool.
Nice.
Very awesome. Well done.
Hi, I'm Bibi. I am a co-founder of a travel startup called Air Guides, and I'm operations manager for a VC firm based in Brisbane. This has absolutely nothing to do with that. I have a 14-month-old. The idea was, I'm Dutch, I'm from the Netherlands, and I'd love to raise her bilingual, or attempt to. So the idea was to develop an app for Scouts with all the things that she likes, and upload Opa's voice, so family members in the Netherlands, so that she can pick a book in English or in Dutch and choose the voice that she wants to. It completely broke this morning, so I've tried to recover what I could, but it's absolutely terrible. This is built in Bolt. I've uploaded a UI UX sort of script for specifically for toddlers. It picked Darth Vader as the main photo for the very hungry caterpillar.
Extremely hungry.
But at least that's better than my initial colleague. This was after I told it to only be very specifically only toddler-friendly images. So this is just a really simple. She can pick English and Netherlands. There's some different backgrounds there. So if we pick the very hungry caterpillar, she can do a little summary for the English words, the Dutch words, which is not working now.
Oh, it'll just be the sound, I'm sure.
What's that?
It'll just be the sound on the computer.
Oh yeah. Already?
Hongerig.
Oh, it does already work. Hey, sweet. That actually works because I can check it.
Hungry.
Hungry. And then sort of a toddler-friendly meaning, some cool sort of gamifying things to make the book more fun for her. A little story summary, and then something that you can think about together to prompt you to what's your favorite food to eat when you're really hungry. Let's see.
A tiny caterpillar eats his way through lots of food before becoming a beautiful butterfly.
Okay, so this is the next step to make it a bit more emotive, the language. So we're going to use 11 Labs to upload a bunch of different friendly grandpa, cranky uncle, super warm grandmother, like a really some cute voices there that she can have a play with, and then ideally also people that she actually knows. And then we can play around with some cool little comments from grandpa that he can put in there whenever he wants. Let me check the Dutch version. I'm sort of testing this with you live now. Look van de Petflat. This is Nijntje from Dick Bruna. You might know this as Miffy.
Follow the adventures of Miffy, a sweet little rabbit who explores the world with curiosity and joy.
Okay,
Follow
so this
the
is actually
adventures of Miffy.
hilarious. So it's a Dutch voice talking in English with the most terrible English accent. So yeah, I do apologize for this terrible after all your amazing presentations. This is a very, very initial well, not even MVP, to be continued, but this is the plan.
Fantastic.
So this is an internal tool. I've got the Grants Hub is my business, so an online grants directory. We're a really small team, so it's always that constant challenge between what you invest in development versus what you're spending your time and money on doing everything else. So Chris has been pushing me in a big way to learn how to do some of this stuff and figure things out myself for what I want to be able to create, and then take it to developers for like that next stage. So really, it's helped me work through what are the different pieces that need to connect, what do I want it to look like. You can try something and you go, hey, actually I want it to look like this. When you're doing that with developers that you're paying, it costs you a lot of money when you're bootstrap business. So this has been, super helpful for that. So this is just, I was working on something much more complex last week, but that's one of those chuck in the bin, let's start again kind of projects. This one at the moment is working. So Our grants researcher it's all kind of manual work to do that. One thing we've found our members are really interested in and potential customers is actually some of the data around how many grants are changing, and it's a real like point of conversion for people. So from free trial through to paid customers. So this is internal at the moment, but working through how to get this as an external facing tool. And then also for me, with a full remote team, it means I can actually see really clearly in a visual way. We've got all this data in super boring formats, but you know, what's all the changes happening in grants right across Australia at any time, and some of the categories that they're happening in as well. And then just comparing it to, I'm wondering about gamifying some of this. So like which state is winning for grant updates each week, pushing that as more like state-based promotion tools.
Which could give you good content for social media and stuff.
Correct. So this has already been helpful for social media content, mostly on LinkedIn. And we send out an EDM to, it's like 45,000 people on the newsletter list. So some of this content going into that on Tuesday, Thursdays, updating people on what's happening in the space. So it's pretty much internal at the moment. Even that number there though, I think sometimes these tools we make, like for me, it's so simple after everything that you guys have shown. This count here, our grants researcher let me know this morning, she was doing this as a full manual count within our directory. So she would count like every grant in here. So this is our like, the business. So she would go through and count anything manually with a tag on it every Friday afternoon and count how many grants had been updated. And then if she lost place, she's a perfectionist, so she would go back and start the whole count all over again. Like, so now this is just a system you can just run the changelog, all done through GitHub. This is it, all sitting in here, and get the data.
Very cool. Just maybe one point on that I think is interesting with this journey that you've been going on, is you've got, let's call it a legacy business, been around for quite a while. You've got a database that contains so much valuable information.
Yep.
But you're kind of constrained to do anything with that data other than by going to your dev team, asking them to do things. So how much has the APIs that you had developed recently sort of unlocked your ability to now do things with that?
Huge.
Yeah.
Yep, huge. So like, I know we're not allowed to say it after today, so I'm completely non-technical. There you go, I'll put it out there.
This is the last time.
last time. But even that, like learning to understand, like in this space, for you guys who are technical, it's like, it's so normal. But for me to even understand what an API is and go, okay, this is how I need to view the data better. Like hopefully it's helping me ask better questions to our developer as well, more intelligent questions probably, and understanding how some of those complexities work. But just being able to like do API calls on the grant listings that we've got, run a search, test chatbots, test grant matching functions and things. That's what I was working on last week. Really wanted to show that today, but that's way off being ready to show. The thing that broke that was asking it to make the fonts and the colours nicer. So that's not going to do that again.
Checks out.
But yeah, it didn't like that very much. But yeah, having access to that just to play with things from my side has been, super useful.
Very cool.
Yep. Super lean team.
Well, we've got a few minutes left. I know that we've got a couple of guys in the room who are way down in the weeds of the technology of these things. You know, I think if we're using things like Bolt and Lovable and so forth, I would say those are sort of quite high up the stack. Then you've got Cursor and where you're actually sort of, manipulating the underlying prompts and all that kind of stuff. And then you've got the agent itself. And we've got Chris and Bert in the room who've been really deep in the weeds of investigating how do these things work at the sort of very, very detailed level. Did you have anything you wanted to demo or show us, Chris, or can you do it in
Not without
2 or 3 minutes? No, not without prep. Bert, you got anything?
If I didn't bring my charger and I've got 5 minutes with.
But I'm just going to point you to Bert and Chris and Damien at the back there from our Coding from Beach team, who lead the technologists on the coast, and these guys are deep in the weeds of how these agents work at a deep level and the LLMs and the prompting and so forth. So if you ever want to call someone up and get some deep technical advice on how you might think about building your agents and so forth, those are 3 people that you can chat with. They've got a lot of knowledge and are spending a lot of time in the weeds. So feel free to hit them up. But guys, thanks so much for Sprint 1. Hopefully everyone's learnt a lot, and most importantly, I think, has sort of demystified what it means to now build with this stuff. I mean, yes, it's frustrating, you run into the kind of roadblocks that you probably run into, but we'll consolidate over the next couple of weeks and make sure you've got some strong fundamentals to help you unblock those things. Jeff, when do you go?
The 12th.
We've got Jeff Bowen in town. Fantastic Jeff Bowen, who comes over each summer and volunteers and helps out at the hub, former Facebook mobile developer, brilliant software developer, who's made himself available as part of our residency program. So if you're stuck with something, you need some help, hit up Jeff, buy him a beer on Friday, and offer to go for a run with him, and I'm sure he'll be very happy to assist you. Make use of that resource, he'll be able to help you a lot. So without further ado, let's go to the Barbie and we'll get our t-shirts, shall we? Our swag. So maybe we'll get our t-shirts on here and you can wear them to the Barbie.
Thank you, Chris. Thank